Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library. And today we're going to discuss what you might want to do if you find that you'd like to create a spreadsheet, but perhaps the time it would take to figure out what function to use is just beyond what you could do. Or maybe you're really a little bit timid about the formatting that you might need to do. Or let's face it, you may just have run out of time and you need to do something really quick. In that case, you may want to explore Excel templates. So what are templates? Well, if you have done some quilting perhaps, or maybe you've done some work with wood or metals, or maybe you've even worked with blueprints or plans for a garden, then you have worked with a template, which is simply a pattern or a guide. Now, Excel templates are really not so different in that templates for Excel have already created worksheets and workbooks that probably already have formatting and functions. All you need to do is fill in your information that customizes that template. To find Excel templates, let's start at the very beginning and come down to the lower left of my screen and click on our Start button. And while we could find Excel in this alphabetical list, I'm just going to click on my Excel tile and let Excel open. Now, this view may be different from what you see on your computer, but it's going to be very similar in that it's going to have the same kinds of things. And at the top here, where it says blank workbook, well, blank workbook is a template. So no matter what version of Excel you have, the rest of the templates are going to be close by. In fact, to the right of that blank workbook are some of the other templates that I have either looked at or that just showed up as a default. To the right on mine, it says More Templates, so I'm going to click on More Templates. And again, at the top, it shows me the templates that I have sort of looked at and explored recently. And then below that, it has a search box where we can search for online templates. And then below that, it even has some of the suggested templates that you may find interesting. Now, Excel also adds in something that's really interesting. You might decide to take a tour of Excel, create a drop-down list, which is kind of an interesting help, but here is a tutorial for that. Here's a formula tutorial, a pie chart tutorial, and a pivot table tutorial. So these are things that are extra that Excel has that other applications may not have. To look at our templates in a little more detail, let's look below the search box at the suggested searches: business, personal, planners and tracking, lists, budgets, charts, and calendars. Oddly enough, business and personal tend to duplicate the other four, so we're going to start on the right and look at calendars. As you look at this list of calendars, you can see that there are all sorts of different colors and formats available. It includes activity sheets and academic calendars, 12-month calendars and 1-month calendars, semester calendars, all sorts of different calendars, and really kind of planners as well. Some of them are just one worksheet, and some of them are a workbook with 12 worksheets. It just depends on the template that you select. Well, let's say that you're interested in the very first one here, this seasonal photo calendar, and to the right of the title you can see that you have a push pin. If you click the push pin, it pins this particular template to where we saw the blank workbook when we first opened Excel, and this will show up to the right of that blank workbook, and it will stay there so that you can go back and use it again and again. Well, let's click on it. And what happens is another window opens and we get a nice big picture of what that template is going to look like. To the right of that, you can see there's a title. It's provided by Microsoft. There might be some third-party providers, but for the most part, Microsoft. And then you have a description of what that calendar is going to do and how it's going to look. Now, because this is a seasonal photo calendar and it talks about 4 seasons, you might think that, well, if I use this arrow to the right, I should be able to see another season besides spring. But when you click on it, oh, it just takes you to the next template in the list. So this little arrow and the one over at the left are just simply navigation arrows. Well, let's click the one on the left to go back to our seasonal photo calendar, and let's click Create. And that will download the workbook. And as we look at this, well, one, it's really kind of a pretty picture, but down at the bottom, you can see that there is a worksheet for each month. And they are even kind of color-coded here. So my guess is March starts spring, and then June starts summer, and is it September starts fall. So a lot of color coding and information. When I go back to the January tab, you'll notice that there are instructions in the upper left. And don't be surprised if when you look at Excel templates, there are comment boxes where you have instructions that explain how to fill out the information on that particular template. If you really want to keep this template and even save it to your computer, you can do that. You can see that this is just a temporary name here in the title bar of Seasonal Photo Calendar 1, but you could certainly do a file save as. You can give this a name and a location where you can find it again. Well, let me close. Now, when I do, it's going to take us back to where we need to open Excel. And because I looked at that seasonal photo calendar, here it is right beside the blank workbook. And then I'm going to go to the right to more templates. Because we've looked at calendars, now let's look at charts. And again, the charts are very obviously different color schemes, very different kinds of charts. And some of these charts are things that, say, 10 years ago, it was really hard to find software that could create this kind of chart. So Gantt charts are something that are pretty unusual, and it's great that Excel has some available for you. It even has this milestone infographic, for example. It has timelines, but it also has charts that combine with budgets. Some really interesting information there. And then they even have some family tree generators, which for the genealogists among us, that might be a really big help. Here's the timeline, which is another one that's really kind of hard to find software that's very good at that. And it looks like there's a template for that as well. And even a baby growth chart. So a big variety here of different kinds of charts that you might find helpful. As a matter of fact, let's go down to that baby chart just for fun, and we'll click it. And again, we get the big picture, we get the title, who it's provided by. You can track information, track the growth, and then as you type in the numbers, the chart changes as well. And then we can click Create on this one. And so, wow, this is really great in that here's the growth data down at the bottom left in one sheet, and then in the next sheet over, it shows us that chart. Again, notice that you have the little comment boxes that help you understand what you're seeing and how to complete the different charts. Now let's go back to more templates, and we're going to look at two of the more popular items, the budgets and lists. These are things that people ask about in an Excel class. So let's start with budgets. And this is really nice because you don't have to reinvent the wheel and create your own budget. This has color, it has the formulas already in them. they can be a really big help, and they have a whole lot of different kinds of budgets. So while it is perhaps a personal budget that you're interested in, it might also be, say, a household monthly budget or a bill paying checklist. But it also has budgets for events, say weddings or baby showers, that kind of thing. And a whole variety here of different kinds of budgets so that you can keep track of your money and how it is being spent. Just remember that each one of these will have definite instructions on how to use them and how to fill information in. Well, let's go back and also look at lists. And lists are something that I think people think that Word may be the best way to create a list and put it in a table, but Excel is a natural table already, and so a lot of other people will definitely tell you, oh, I put all of my lists in Excel. So again, we have this huge variety of lists that you may find interesting. So we have a sports sign-up sheet, we have a movie list, we have a checklist for back to school, we have a to-do checklist for projects, we have inventory of home contents. A lot of different kinds of lists that you may find helpful. Going back to where we can find our next suggested searches, notice that as I have looked at different templates, that they now show up under New at the top of this screen. Well, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit and go to Planners and Trackers. Now, anytime you have something that you need to plan or keep track of, you may decide that you want to use one of these templates. And even though it might say credit card tracker, if you like that format, you could adapt it to being a tracker that you need or a planner that you would like to use. So as we look at some of these, again, there's a lot of color, a lot of different formats available. So let's just look and see if there are some that you might find interesting. Volunteer assignments, that's always one that pops up from time to time if you belong to any kind of a group. Let's see, a weekly schedule planner, there's a mileage and expense tracker, sales forecast if you're into that, a wedding timeline planner. We have a credit card tracker, monthly personal planner. So kind of a variation of a calendar, but a good help. My military service might be something that would help people who are potentially just looking at tracking old jobs as they create their resumes. And so this might be one that would be easy to convert to some other use. A personal mileage tracker for sure. Let's see, probate inventory, allowance tracker. And so for kids, that might be something that would be helpful. Retirement planner, a family travel planner, a meal planner. So we have all sorts of different templates. Again, we want to just scroll through and find the one that makes sense and that will be the most helpful for what we're trying to do. Now let's go back and we'll look at the last two suggested searches, business and personal. And as promised, you're going to see some of the templates that we've already seen within business and personal. So let's start with personal. And yes, here we go. Oh, a loan calculator. That's interesting. But here's that personal mileage tracker, the monthly personal planner. Oh, a household to-do list. That's one that we haven't seen before, but maybe we just didn't scroll down far enough in some of our lists. That photo family tree is there as well, the family event calendar. So while a lot of these are helpful and they are divided into personal use, you can see that they are forms that you have seen before. Well, let's go back and we'll do the same thing with business here very quickly. Go to business. And, oh, this is all blue to begin with. It's very pretty, but you can see that, again, inventory list, small business profit and loss statement, some helpful forms, some helpful templates. But again, things that we have seen before, for example, this any year calendar, I remember it from looking at the calendars. So a lot of these you will have seen in other places, but very helpful for business if you especially have a small business where this could come in really handy. Now that we've briefly looked at the business and personal templates, let's go back. And this time, let's look at this search bar, because sometimes it may be easier to just type in what you're interested in rather than doing one of these suggested searches and then scrolling through a whole lot of templates that maybe aren't what you want. So one of the templates that people ask about kind of on a continual basis is the idea that they would like to either get a loan or give a loan to a family member, for example. And that is called an amortization. Let me click in the search bar here and type amortization. And then I can either press enter on the keyboard or I can click the magnifying glass at the far right. And this then gives us the amortization schedules that we could fill in and find out what a monthly payment would be. Let's go to this simple loan calculator and amortization table. And again, when I click on it, it gives me kind of the big picture of how this is going to look, and it's not overly pretty. There's no color involved, but if you're just worried about the numbers, this may be a good one for you to use. You have the title, we have a great description here of everything that it's about, and then we'll click Create. And again, in the upper left, it explains this table and even explains how you could fill it out. But let's just start at the beginning here and play with it a little bit. So loan amount, and even though they've given you an example, you simply type over what is there. So let's say that we're loaning maybe $10,000. And notice that I'm not typing the $ or the comma, just simply the number. And then I'll go down. And the annual interest rate, well, I would like to make this really pretty low for a family member, but I think they probably need to give something back actually because I'm losing money giving it out to someone else. So let's say 2%. And then the loan period in years. Well, I think I'll just make it really easy on them. Let's say 10 years. And the start date, it picks up the default date of when you are creating this table. So this is my date today. And then it already has calculated the monthly payment, how many payments there will be, what the interest will be that is paid, and then the total amount of that loan. So on $10,000 for 10 years at 2%, they will pay back $11,041. And if you don't like that 2%, you could change it to, say, 1%. But this helps very quickly to figure out what payments would be. And then you can even see that I've scrolled down a little bit, but as we look at this table, it tells you what payment it is, what the date is, the beginning balance, the payment, the principal, the interest that they've paid on each one of those, and then the ending balance as they make their payments. And as I scroll down, 10 years, that's 120 payments, right? As I scroll, eventually it gets to the last payment, the beginning balance, and what the payment really is, what the principal then is, the interest that they've paid, and what their ending balance is. So it shows you in great detail everything that you need to agree to when you actually create a loan for someone, or it gives you a really good idea if you need to take out a loan and how you would pay that back. Besides using Excel's templates that have already been made for you, occasionally you may find that you would like to create a template yourself. For example, I've created a book club here that reads mysteries, and while the form is very simple because it just has, the name of the book, the author, is this available at the library so people can check it out rather than buy it from a bookstore. You always need to have a discussion leader, and most importantly, you need to have refreshments. So who's going to supply those? And then you could keep track of the attendance. Certainly I want to be able to add people or subtract people as members come and go, but the basic form here is the same for each month, and so I've certainly made a sheet for each month, and each one looks exactly like the next one. But then that's just for this current year. So what if I want to use this same basic template for next year and the year after that? And even if I get tired, when I give this template to someone else who then can keep this same basic format, well, what I want to do is to use a template. To do that, we can go to File and Save As. And then we need to browse to find a location. So we'll click Browse. And first of all, the file name here needs to be something really great like Book Club Attendance. But now, instead of creating a workbook where it says Save As Type, I'm going to go to the far right, click on the drop down, and look for Excel Template. Click on that, and even though when you save, you usually save to documents or maybe even your desktop, you'll notice that when you save a template, it's going to go to documents, but a subfolder in documents, which is called Custom Office Templates, and then we can save it. So let's close. And then let's open Excel. And because I've created these templates, when I go to More Templates, instead of going to Office-related templates or Office-created templates, I'm going to go to Personal, scroll down a bit, and I have this one personal template. When I click it, it brings up this template that then I can use again and again. To learn more about Excel, be sure to check out our online resources at mymcpl.org/online learning. There you'll see such great resources as Universal Class, lynda.com, Who Knew It, and Learning Express Library. Be sure to join us each week as we premiere 3 videos on a variety of tech topics. Be sure to join us on Facebook at MCPL 360 each Tuesday at 2 and Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you would like to watch the video again or simply prefer YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our MCPL MO channel, where you'll be able to find our MCPL Consumer Technology Resources playlist.